One day at work, a single comment in a meeting almost kept me quiet for 2 whole weeks. It's not that it was cruel, but it was enough to make me forget a 10-year successful track record and start doubting my professional worth. That one remark made me feel I had to prove myself all over again. But in that environment, no matter how hard I tried, the standards seemed to shift. It was like a game where the rules kept changing. So, if the rules keep shifting, is chasing approval just a trap? That's the question that kept turning over in my mind, and I began to notice how often approval sits behind ordinary choices. Have you ever noticed how much time and energy go into proving you're worth something? How many thoughts or choices in a day circle back to that? At work, with family, with friends. Pride and shame slip in more than we realize. They navigate what we do even when we look fine on the outside. We spend years chasing one and running from the other until it feels normal. But what if neither really matters? What if being human is not about proving anything? Not to anyone, not even to ourselves. What if it is about being here, noticing, doing our best and letting go of the rest? And to go back to my story, that comment at work suddenly sparked an almost primitive fear that was literally haunting me. And what I realized is that I was not afraid of being wrong. I was afraid of being unworthy. So I started paying attention to how I reacted to all things in my life, what kicks off in my hands and how it shows up in my feelings. Whenever something made me look good, pride would rise. And whenever I slipped, shame would sneak in, as if my whole existence depended on how I performed on other people's standards. Imagine it as a pendulum, pride on one side, shame on the other. Praise pushes it one way, mistakes push it back. I swung between extremes, sometimes higher, sometimes lower, sometimes passing through the middle, sometimes resting there. But it is still a pendulum. When pushed from the center, as high as I rose on one side, I was pulled to the same height on the other. So I started wondering whether I needed any of this and whether it made my life any better. Because honestly, it began to feel like a costume I had been wearing without realizing. That was when I began to ask what even good or bad are. And in the end, who gets to decide? Religion might say that good is about truth, humility, faith, service. Nature, on the other hand, rewards strength and adaptability, and society tends to call something good if it keeps things stable and familiar. Think about it. What's right in one place or time can be totally wrong in another. Take, for example, a monk's idea of good. It might look like a weakness to a CEO. Or your mom might say leaving a high-paying job is foolish. But an artist or a therapist might call it responsible if it makes your life more aligned. Or a friend might think moving to the mountains is throwing life away. But for someone else, it might be the first time they felt alive. Your family might think being single at 40 is hard, but you might be happier than you ever have. So when you judge yourself, have you ever stopped to ask whose version of truth you are measuring yourself against? And whether by using someone else's standards you are quietly setting yourself up to fail, or to feel miserable trying not to. Somewhere along the way, being human started meaning being good, or at least looking like it. And when we couldn't keep up with that, shame showed up. We've basically been carrying an invisible scoreboard. Pride on one side, guilt on the other, and we're constantly updating it. And it actually makes sense. Most of us grew up getting rewards for being good and punished or correcting when we were bad. So we learned that doing the right things equals to pride, and messing up or not conforming equals to shame. It's like a product with a genius marketing, the conformity pill. Its marketing campaign uses one of the best human traits, self-awareness, which is our ability to reflect and to look at ourselves from the outside. But instead of letting us use it to understand ourselves, it wires it into our fear of losing love and acceptance. It teaches us that if you mess up, then you're not good enough. Even Santa got in on it. And the idea stuck. Our value depends on how well we play this game. That's one way to live. But could there be another? It's easy to think pride and shame only show up in the big stuff, like career choices or family expectations. But if we look closer, they sneak into the little things too. Like posting on social media. One day your post does well and you feel proud. The next day hardly anyone reacts and suddenly you feel small, maybe even a bit ashamed. Same action, different response, and your mood rides a roller coaster. Or at work, you finish a project and your boss praises you, pride kicks in. Next time no one notices and shame whispers, maybe I'm not as good as I thought. Or in friendships, when you say yes to a friend, you feel helpful. When you say no to protect your boundaries, guilt or shame suddenly show up. It's like a background app that drains your battery. And it's not that any of these feelings are wrong. The problem is letting our worth shrink on every little response around us. The tricky part is that when worth is tied to proving ourselves, life turns into a performance. We're always on stage even when we are alone. Failure stops being part of the process and it starts feeling terrifying. And because of that, we avoid risks and we stay very small. And the things that might have been meaningful, we never get to try them. Relationships get tidy on the surface and lonely underneath. We're constantly trying to be the good employee, the good partner, the good child, or the good friend. Brick by brick, we carry rules like do not fail, do not disappoint. And the longer we carry them, the heavier it gets and we stop showing the parts of us that don't fit the role. So pride and shame are the villains? I don't think so. Pride and shame are not enemies. But maybe they're signals. Not about who we should be, but about who we are. We've been trained to use awareness to judge, compare, perform, and edit ourselves into something more acceptable. But what if we use it differently, to observe, to understand? Without any labels, not everything needs to mean you're good or bad. Sometimes it just means you're human. What if the parts we try to hide can actually guide us to understanding who we are? For example, envy could show you what you really want. If you feel a sting when a colleague takes the lead, perhaps you crave creative ownership. That is a map. Anger might show you where your boundaries are. If your stomach knots when a friend jokes about your time, the map might say that you want your time respected. Or sadness could point to misalignment. If you come home from a shiny role and feel flat every night, the map might say that the story fits the world, but not you. And anxiety might often be the mind trying to control what cannot be controlled. So in this case, the map might say that you need better ways to feel safe than rehearsing disasters. When we push these feelings down, they don't vanish, they just wait, often pointing at what matters most. The shadow might be the map. It doesn't disappear when we ignore it, but it can guide us if we're willing to listen. When we get honest about our contradictions and we accept who we are, we don't need approval from the others, and then we stop fearing being found out. That's when confidence feels real, not a mask, but something from the inside, something you don't need to pretend you have. We've all done things we're proud of, and we've all done things we wish we could erase. We've helped people, we've hurt people, but that's just being human, trying, failing, caring, evolving, reacting, learning. The more we make peace with the mess, the more we can trust the parts we're proud of. When we stop hiding from ourselves, we stop needing the scoreboard. But wait, if we don't need that, then where does worth come from? Maybe worth isn't something we're not all. Maybe it's just something we have from the start. It's not handed out when we succeed, it's not taken away when we fail. Not measured by how good we are or how well we fit in. Maybe it's already there, a given, our inheritance. And when we stop trying to prove it, we start to trust it and let it guide how we move through life. So maybe the question is not if I am a good or bad. Maybe the question is, can I live without needing to be either? A fair worry though is this: if I drop pride and shame, will I go soft or selfish? Letting go of pride and shame does not mean we stop caring about our actions. It means we look at them with honesty, not to push ourselves but to understand. When we see our patterns and fears, something shifts. We stop needing to prove anything, we stop needing to hide. The tension drops and the mind clears. And in that space we grow, not because we're forcing change, but because acceptance makes room for it. Knowing our light and shadow and carrying that with care might be enough. We just do our best for who we are right now, and with time we evolve. Not from guilt or pressure, but from clarity and acceptance. Being okay with your shadow is not a weakness, it's a strength, and it's also a map to freedom. And maybe we're not here to prove anything. Maybe we're here to witness, to experience, to learn. Doesn't sound like much, but it can change everything. What do you think? Take some time to observe how you feel about this idea. You don't need to act on it. You don't even need to agree. Just picture yourself without the fear of not being enough, without the weight of pride or shame. Just human. That is enough. In a world obsessed with proving something, the most radical thing you can do is witness yourself being. If something here opened a new perspective for you, share it. Or share a moment from your own life that connects to it. Someone else might recognize themselves in your story. A like tells YouTube to bring more of these conversations your way, and subscribing means you'll be here for the next one. Tell us what landed and what did not. Your feedback shapes where we go next. This space is for mind workers, people who notice, who reflect, who look for more honest ways to move through life. If that's you, welcome in.